Welcome everyone to the 6th edition of the Masterclass series at Flame University. We've been doing this series of sessions to address a lot of queries that we've been getting from management aspirants, also work ex professionals, overall in terms of understanding the various aspects that go on into a management career as such. So for the 6th edition, we have a very interesting session today, which is on introducing your digital self to you. All of us are very different. I think our Twitter profiles are very different. Suddenly on LinkedIn, we all become very serious. And then when we move to Instagram, the seriousness starts to shed away and we are a very different person altogether. So I guess we're going to be discovering a lot on why are these so different and how does digital actually affect us, our lives particularly. And for this topic, I have with us Professor Siddharth Deshmukh. Like I mentioned earlier, very familiar to a lot of others here at the attendee list. And having said that, Professor Siddharth is an adjunct faculty with us at the Flame School of Communication. So is also the first MICAN, the first one to graduate from MICA, Associate Dean with MICA in his earlier foray, and has been with the industry and academia for decades with us. So, sir, I'm not going to delay further. I think everyone's more raring to listen to you. We'll take questions towards the end of the session. So in case if you have questions, you have a Q&A box on your screens. Please use the tab to put in your questions. So we'll be able to take it at the end of his presentation. Thank you, sir. Please all over to you.
Thank you. Yeah. I am going to, you introduced me. Thank you so much. But you're also making me feel very, 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 very old. Because all these people, maybe not the guys I've said hi to.
That was not the intention, though. That was not the intention, though. Yeah. But, you know, it sometimes, it's always a conundrum that a host faces, whether to actually stress on the experience of the speaker or just let the age go by.
You were on the side of wisdom and age, but thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
There is no wisdom here, only age, guys. Sorry, this upfront. See, the whole deal is that you might be wondering, not the people I've said hi to. Maybe Ranjit is already dismissing me. He's a friend of mine. But the fact is that everybody else might be actually thinking, what's this old fool going to talk to us about? Digital selves there. Come on, I've just got a Clubhouse invite. I'm on Instagram and my Instagram game is really strong. Okay, I know exactly who to avoid on WhatsApp. I know exactly what to do. So what's this fool going to do? Introduce my digital self to me. What is going on? So maybe just bear with me for a bit. What I will do is I will talk I have no presentation, and I'll tell you why as well. But essentially, I will talk for about, let's say, 35-40 minutes. After which, what I will do is I'll open it up for any questions or anything, remotely related to a doubt, question, contradictory view, whatever you want to call it. And I just wanted to, kind of share thoughts, feelings, and the rest of it with you. Okay, so having said all of that and having dispensed with all the pleasantries, what I wanted to do was I wanted to imagine a certain scenario. And the scenario is this: you are the proud owner of a wonderful mansion. Okay, can you visualize it? Maybe close your eyes. Don't go to sleep, but close your eyes and visualize that you're part of you own a wonderful mansion, and that mansion has many rooms. But there's a problem. The problem is that the moment you go in one room, you completely change. Okay, your clothes change, your feelings change, your emotions change, your thoughts change, and you go to another room, and that happens. And you go to another room, and another thing happens. So by the time you reach the back end of the house, nobody knows what this person is all about. Nobody knows who this person is. Okay, and somebody who's actually followed this person around this mansion might actually end up thinking this person is a psycho. This person is an absolute schizophrenic. Of course, I'm just kidding about the schizophrenia bit. I don't want to trigger anybody and anybody's, it's not a medical term that I'm using, but this is exactly what is happening. Ranjit has just lost the audio. Is that a problem across?
No, sir, I think we can hear you clearly.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm hoping that just imagine this mansion and you yourself. Now let's name these rooms, okay? Let's name these rooms and let's discover your personalities in all of these rooms. So the first would be Zoom, okay? The first room is called Zoom. The next room is called Netflix. The third room is called Facebook. The fourth is LinkedIn. Fifth is Instagram. Sixth is WhatsApp. Seventh is, maybe Twitter, 8th is YouTube, 9th is TikTok, 10th is Among Us, and 11th is Clubhouse. And well, let's just go through these rooms, shall we? Okay, so the first room that you enter is Zoom. Now, you know what happens over here? Zoom is the place where your attention spans are challenged. Yeah, you heard me right. Attention spans are challenged and in Zoom, and you complain to your teacher if you're a student, or you complain to your boss if you're an employee, that boss ये इतना नहीं जमता है, screen पे बहुत problem हो रहा है, and I cannot pay so much attention. Okay, my anyways attention spans have reduced across, and please do something about it. But if that person on the other side is an intelligent person, he will say, yeah, you know, this attention span business is interesting, but do you know that the evolution of man has actually happened over 500,000 years? And in 500,000 years, our attention spans, our muscle memories are not particularly reduced. Okay. So what are you talking about? In the last 1 year, your attention span has reduced, or last 10 years? What has happened? So actually, perhaps Zoom is a place wherein your attention span may be challenged, but our attention spans are not reduced from a physical perspective. What is happening is that technology perhaps is allowing us to redistribute our attention span. So obviously you've got many tabs open even as I'm speaking with you, right? And you've got, something going on the back, some chat going on, some Insta going on, something is happening, right, in the background. And we are kind of dealing with the redistributed attention spans. So anytime somebody says our attention spans have reduced, throw this argument back at them and say, no, it's not reduced, it's redistributed. We are completely having our own choice. Yeah. Now, we've talked about Zoom. Now let's move to the next room. Okay. So the next room is Netflix. Now, exactly the antidote to Zoom, right? So you're in Netflix and now suddenly your attention span is not challenged at all, right? You are binge watching. So whether it's House of Cards or whether it's, Sacred Games or whatever the hell your poisonous Stranger Things, I don't know, whatever. But you're binge watching. So any person who's actually, really concerned about his reduced attention span, perhaps just needs to go to the Netflix room once in a while. Okay, just needs to go once in a while to the Netflix room just to reassure that actually my attention span is hale and hearty and I can binge watch anything I want to for a long period of time. But yeah, I mean, the way in which the Netflix room is that a different part of our personality comes out. In Zoom, our personality is a reluctant participant, okay, because we don't want this sort of digital interaction. To be honest, nobody wants it. In a student teacher scenario, nobody wants it. In a boss employee scenario, perhaps there are some people who do want to work from home, but don't want to be on a Zoom meeting or a Zoom call, right? So it is quite strange how this whole thing works, right? On Netflix, on the other hand, that is a very interesting room, because that room, you want to be on digital. You are already choosing to be on Netflix rather than theater. People are saying theater should be open, and we all look forward to the stale popcorn and the wafers and shit like that. But the fact is that over a period of time, OTT channels have actually taken over, and Netflix has become a huge force because it represents something really interesting amongst all of us. It represents the fact that we are looking towards entertainment without advertising or marketing. Now that becomes a massive challenge for marketers and advertisers, but that is not the topic for my lecture. So I shall quickly move ahead to the next room. Now the next room, especially if you're a millennial or Gen Z, and Ranjit certainly is not one of them, but so he will be on my side, but the next room is Facebook. Yeah. So Facebook is this thakela place wherein everybody has gone to, and now it's it's got molding at the chairs are moldy, the tables are kind of boring, everything has become kind of flat. Okay, the fact is that Facebook still gives you a sort of comfort feeling, right? Especially to people who are as old as me, Facebook gives a comfortable feeling. Everything is where it is. My friends are really my friends. They are not some strange people I have met on the internet. And my tribe is actually my tribe. I feel like I belong. If I'm old enough, I feel like I belong over there. And if I'm young enough, I'll go there and say, this is where my dad is. I'm getting the hell out of here, right? So Facebook is a room that you go into, quickly change and come back out, right? Now, if you look at from Facebook, okay, to your room, which is Instagram, that's an interesting room too. Because when you go to Instagram, do you really think you're yourself? I don't think so. So the fact of the matter is that when you're on Instagram, you are exactly like Facebook's younger self. What is really happening on Instagram is that you are Superman. In real life, you are Clark Kent, but on Instagram, you are Superman, man. Your holidays are amazing. Your filters are amazing. Your comments are great. Everything is fantastic, right? In your life, nothing is wrong. Okay, everybody's life is picture perfect, and so that's why I call Instagram the Superman room. So when you're on Instagram, you suddenly feel a very, very different person. Now, this is very important. This is very important because actually in such a world that we live in, where there is so much of information, right? Because of the internet, there is so much of information that is hitting us all the time, right? What tends to happen is that we need a place to escape, and that escape is from information that tells us that we are actually kind of dull, we are ordinary, we are normal. Instagram makes us stand out. Okay, now here's the interesting thing. On Facebook, when you're old and gray and mature, like me and a few unnamed others on this particular lecture, you you want to belong, okay? And on Instagram, you want to stand out, okay? The tribe is interesting because there's a tribe on Instagram, okay, which is your tribe, you millennials, you Gen Zers, you, and here's the Facebook tribe of the lost generation, and I don't know what else, right? Whenever we look at any community, especially if it is online, then any community has two pillars. Pillar one is to belong, pillar two is to stand out. But every social network has the ability to create its own interface and user experience and algorithm in such a way that you either get a stronger sense of belonging or a stronger sense of standing out. Now, on Facebook, there is a question of belonging. So you're either for Trump or against Trump. You're either for Modi or against Modi, and so on and so forth. So these are bubbles that we are creating, very well exploited and explained in the Social Dilemma and Cambridge Analytica documentaries on Netflix, the earlier room that we visited. So I'm not going to talk to you about it. By the way, on this side, on Instagram, everyone is trying to stand out. Okay, so everyone's trying to show off their latest clothes, their latest makeup, their latest this, their latest that, and the rest of it. So it means that the second pillar of this community, okay, is to stand out. This is interesting because if everyone is trying to stand out, then nobody, is standing out. If everyone's a photographer, nobody's a photographer. If everyone wears a pair of jeans, nobody's a rebel. I could go on like this, but you get my point, right? So now, if we look at Instagram and if you look at Facebook, what we are understanding is, oh shit, from Zoom to Netflix to Facebook to Instagram, all of these rooms are configured in such a way that my mind is behaving differently. So my mind is behaving differently whenever I'm going into any room. Now, this becomes a very important thing for us to understand. So on Zoom, I am part of a interest-driven sort of collective. But on Netflix, I am an individual, okay? And let's say on Facebook, I'm part of a particular tribe, my own bubble. If I'm on Instagram, again, I'm part of a tribe, but that tribe is more towards standing out. This tribe is more towards blending in. So again, there are differences, and that difference is expressed in the language. I mean, Instagram is visual, etc. And so I don't need to go there. You already know Instagram way better than me. Now let's look at WhatsApp. Now, everybody has that uncle on WhatsApp who makes sure that he bores everybody by good morning forwards and very bad joke forwards, right? So you have very strange things going on WhatsApp. But it is again a room wherein you are able to understand the structure of a community. So the smallest unit of a community is a family, right? So you have a family WhatsApp group. Then you have a larger family WhatsApp group, which everyone's trying to avoid, but you can't avoid, right? But that's another group. Then you have your friends ka WhatsApp group. Then you have your sad WhatsApp groups for specific classes. Oh God, Siddharth Deshmukh's class in digital marketing. I have to belong there. What can I do? Oh no. So that is another thing. So there are various strata for WhatsApp to happen. But on WhatsApp, what we understand? We understand that all of us, whether it is on WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook or anything, we have preferred, so far, we have preferred texting over talking. Now, what does that actually mean? Why do we prefer texting over talking? Isn't talking interesting? Talking, when I'm talking with you, hopefully you are finding me interesting. But if I'm talking with you, that means that I'm engaging the whole of your brain, right? I'm engaging your emotional centers. I'm getting you to react. I'm getting you to connect emotionally. Maybe I can frighten you if I do this, whatever, right? But what is happening essentially is that I'm talking to the whole of your brain. I'm talking to your prefrontal cortex. I'm talking to your amygdala, I'm talking to your limbic system, I'm talking to your primordial centers and the rest of it. But on WhatsApp, I'm texting. So I'm only using my prefrontal cortex. Now my prefrontal cortex is where I do my logical, rational thinking. So when I'm doing my logical, rational thinking, it means that I can curate my own personality, or rather personal brand, in a beautiful way, right? So I'm able to do this in a fantastic way, right? So I'm able to think, ooh, how should I respond to this person so that he or she thinks the best of me? So that's your WhatsApp room, wherein what you're doing is that you're curating your personal brand. And so it is with, when you slide into DMs in Instagram or Facebook Messenger or the rest of it. What you're doing is that you're thinking before doing anything. By the way, there's a very good reason why a digital professor like me does not use anything digital when he's talking to you. The reason is, I know this, that on digital PowerPoint, right? PowerPoint makes you like this. It's called death by PowerPoint. And what I want you to do is actually pay attention. So there is a very good reason why I don't make any PowerPoints. And that's the reason I don't want death by PowerPoint. But coming back to the curation, and I also want to engage with your whole brain, because that's the best way in which learning can happen. That's the best way in which collaboration can happen. That's the best way in which feedback can happen. But we prefer texting over talking. Sure, texting also increases multitasking, texting increases convenience, texting increases so many different things. But the main reason, you and I both know, we don't want to talk, do we? Because talking will give us away and texting won't, right? So my God, now just think about it, right? We've gone to Zoom, we've gone to Netflix, we've gone to Facebook, we've gone to LinkedIn, we've gone to Instagram, and we've seen WhatsApp. Okay, what's next? What's next, you may ask me? And we've also kind of touched PowerPoint a little. Now let's talk about some of the old favorites. How about if we talk of, LinkedIn? Now, what is LinkedIn? It's a very interesting thing. So LinkedIn is a wannabe social medium. Why do I say that? Because it's not really a social medium. It is your CV on steroids. So that room that you go in, okay, LinkedIn is now trying to create a sense of belonging, but basically it is not a community on LinkedIn as much as it is a network, a professional network. So on a network, you have that sense of opportunity, but you don't have the sense of belonging. Of course, it's a spectrum. There is a sense of belonging even on a LinkedIn, but it's not that much. It's not that much. So on LinkedIn, what happens is that people start actually putting on their metaphorical suits. So once you go in that room, remember, put on your suit and maybe a tie, although I won't recommend it. It's not hip to wear a tie anymore. But what you need to do is understand that you're at your formal best over there. Which is why, if you notice on LinkedIn, a lot of text-oriented people have become LinkedIn influencers. It is quite interesting to see that on Instagram, it is photos and stuff like that. Those are the guys who are influencers. On LinkedIn, it is text, right? It is very weird to see that, because it is not just about the kind of people who are inhabiting those places, but it is also about what that medium is making their brains do. So on Instagram, they want you to communicate your fantastic personality. But on LinkedIn, what they want you to do is communicate your thoughts, which is your text, right? So LinkedIn is a very interesting room. It's a formal room, formal setting. Maybe you will have to eat with a fork and knife over there, right? Maybe that's your formal kitchen in that mansion. Now, if I look at how LinkedIn is, and if I compare it to a Facebook, you'll soon understand the difference. It is inhabited by the same old people, Facebook and LinkedIn. I know that Gen Zers and millennials are trying to be there, but it's not really their medium, is it? Right? But on LinkedIn, it's a network. And on Facebook, there is a sense of belonging. So the understanding becomes very clear. In fact, you'll have a lot of people on LinkedIn say, hey, don't make this another Facebook. Let's keep things professional here. Why does it happen? And by the way, I think any person who is on LinkedIn and who says humbled, and all of those, that, please don't do this. Keep it real on LinkedIn too, right? Okay. Now, let's talk about some of the other ones, right? But the other ones are really exciting because that's where the entire thing is changing. So if I look at what's happening with Twitter, it's such an interesting situation. It's an interesting room because on Twitter, it's not the tribe that is on Facebook or on Instagram, okay? But it's on Twitter, you are talking to something called a neo tribe. So what is a neo tribe? A neo tribe is a place wherein you are actually connecting to people you don't know and want to influence. So everyone's trying to influence each other, right? And on Twitter, you can create the craziest sort of thing, and get away with it for a little while till you are cancelled away, right? So on Twitter, it's a very interesting phenomenon. You are connected to strangers because you want to shit on them. You want to make them feel miserable, and they want to make you feel miserable as well, especially if you're going around in the right circles. Never read comments on Twitter. Never read comments on YouTube. I'll come to YouTube a little later. But let's talk about Twitter. Twitter is currently under a lot of problems, and that's why you got a new entrant called Koo right out there, right? But I don't think you belong to Koo so far. Your digital self is in the room called Twitter. And Twitter is part of a new tribe wherein you are not yourself. Again, you are a wannabe. You want to stand for a certain social cause. You want to feel offended by a certain something. And all of us are like that. Even I am like that. So please don't take offenses at to whatever I'm saying, right? Whatever I'm saying to you, I'm exactly like that. All of us is like that because that's our digital self, right? So Twitter, we are part of a new tribe. And what we are doing is we are inflaming each other's brains. Okay. So also understand now, we are talking about the brain and how the brain is changing room per room per room per room. On LinkedIn, it was all prefrontal cortex. On Instagram, it was all, limbic system, emotions, Facebook too. Okay. On Zoom, it was all dull. So all the brain was quite dull. Netflix, it is again, the limbic system. But on Twitter, what is really happening is the beauty of the limitation of the medium. Understand this. Because text is shorter, you can only communicate a certain amount in a particular text. And because you can do that, and because there's a limitation on characters, earlier it was even worse. Now it's slightly better. You are bound to inflame somebody. Because if your worst enemy had to listen to you for 5 whole minutes, he might get bored, but he may not get upset because he will understand the nuance in your conversation. But on Twitter, there is no room for nuance. That room is made to be that you want to throw an egg on the other person's face. So it is a recipe for disaster. But very popular, like Speaker's Corner in real life in London, where I live. Right? Now, take Twitter and keep that aside for a little while, and Goo and everything else. And by the way, I hope you know about Parlor. That's the room that doesn't belong to your mansion. It belongs to the mansion next door. It was a rougher version of Twitter, right? So people were even more abusive over there, but let's not get there. That's somebody else's house. Our house has Twitter, okay? Now we go to the next room, which is YouTube. Now, is YouTube a social medium? I don't know. YouTube is a creator sort of place, right? So you have a situation wherein you have creator coming in and creating something for you, you're consuming it, but it is also the place wherein you should never read comments, man. If you read comments on YouTube, you either laugh your ass off or you are really, really upset. But YouTube is an interesting phenomenon because it is the only social medium which has been successful coming from Google's stable. Otherwise, Google has always flopped when it comes to social networks. But YouTube is a very strange phenomenon because it is very strongly, positively right there. Now, YouTube is another weird medium, right? Because on YouTube, what is happening is that there's this premium thing. So it's the same room which gets done up on weekends because your grandmother is coming to watch, or otherwise you're just watching it free. So you're accepting stuff on YouTube, ads on YouTube. And here is a very interesting thing. So if you put on a Netflix thing, and if you put on a YouTube channel, right? I can bet you that you can put on a YouTube channel and fall asleep much easier than putting on Netflix and falling asleep. Because in our mind, I know that I am actually kind of paying for Netflix and this is high quality so-called content coming at me. And on YouTube, I don't know, maybe it's a podcast that also has a video channel. I don't know whatever is happening, but I have the ability to drift off to a peaceful sleep if YouTube is going on. So even though they're video and even though YouTube has a premium thing, our perception and our response to them is coming from that place because the algorithm always rules and the room always rules because the room is creating a certain frame in that room itself so that your mind becomes different in that room, right? So therefore, what is happening is what we are coming to, the conclusion that we are coming to is that every room is different, even though it has the same sort of so-called mechanisms. There's a video part, there's an audio part, there's a text part, there's a messenger part, there's everything. Features and functions, boss, sabka same hai. But the way in which they are configured, okay, is different. And when the way in which those features and functions are configured, that actually is your user experience. And when that keeps changing, okay, we say, yaar, iska algorithm badal gaya hai. Okay, so an algorithm is nothing but the expression of a user experience at a particular point in time, right? I hope you understand that. I'm just going to, this is an introductory lecture, so I'm not going to get into the depth of each and every one of these concepts. And my poor, unfortunate students have to go through that, right? But coming back to YouTube, that's an interesting room too. Now let's go to a locked room in your house. You go to that room is locked. You want to go get in, but that room is locked. Guess what room that is? Anybody? Want to chat? What room is that? This is a test so that I want to know if people just chat. Tell me. You're there in that house. You're trying to open the damn room. The room is locked. What room is that? Kaustubh saying Clubhouse. Somebody saying Pinterest. Okay. Actually, that room is TikTok, right? Because TikTok was there, everyone was going there, all of that. It was our guilty pleasure. Everyone wanted to see people cutting onions for a long time and doing some stupid things for a long time. And then suddenly, the room was locked. So what happened to that room? That room was an amazing room because that room proved that every village in India has a Sunil Shetty lookalike. Okay. And every village in India has the ability to actually create stupid content. Okay, it was truly the democratization of stupid content. Everyone could create stupid content. And here's the really interesting thing. And this is maybe elitism or maybe whatever, I don't know, your call, right? But you know what it is? After TikTok shut down, okay, it had so many millions of people on TikTok. Instagram's numbers have not gone up, nor have Joshes and Coos and anything. TikTok had a lot of TikTokers. I have no idea where they are now. Because they are certainly not gone to Instagram because they were not feeling welcome there. Okay, because on Instagram, you're trying to show off, you're trying to be Superman, you're amazing, you're big. And on TikTok, you're trying to blend in, you're trying to show, I can do the same dance moves like everybody else, even though they're really stupid. So essentially, it means that if I look at TikTok and the legions and legions of TikTokers, especially coming from smaller, more facile areas and the rest of it, I have actually no idea where they are right now. Okay, that is a lost opportunity as far as that room is concerned, because that is a locked room. Now, whether it's permanently locked or temporarily locked, I have no idea. But certainly ByteDance has shut down operations in India. So, I don't know. So that's your TikTok for you. That's your locked room in the mansion. Ooh, that's where the ghost is, right? Now, let's look at Among Us. Now, that's a very, very, very interesting room. Among Us is a place, is a room wherein you can either meet strangers or you can meet friends. Now, that's a very interesting place. So, it is either a family room or it is your formal reception at the beginning of the house, because it's a mansion. Remember, lots of rooms. And the funny thing is, you can play with strangers, you can play with family and friends. And the interactions are different, and nobody knows who the imposter is. In fact, Among Us is really interesting because Among Us videos you're seeing on YouTube. Now, what in the world is that? You're seeing people play a game like Among Us on YouTube and you're falling asleep to that. That's a very interesting thing, yeah. Then might as well fall asleep to a podcast. No, the Joe Rogan Experience is there. Even my poor podcast is there. might as well put that podcast on, because at least the podcast, you don't have to check videos out. Anyways, you don't want to listen to, a lot of sense at that point in time. You want to listen to a little nonsense. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep something on in the background and let it go on. And that's another room, by the way, the podcast. Okay. Because that room is interesting, because that room is where you feel comfortable. That's like your campfire. Then on that campfire, there's a, that feeling of comfort that maybe primitive man had on the savannah when they had, caught an animal and made sure that, everyone's eating food and everyone's enjoying themselves maybe, and relaxing. And the village elder is talking a beautiful, it's telling a beautiful tale. Okay. And it's, the fire is crackling and people feel safe. I think that's the same kind of feeling that you get when you listen to a podcast. And that's why that room becomes your comfort zone, your comfort room. Okay. Now, if I look at a podcast and if I look at Among Us, they're so different, because Among Us makes you edgy, makes you nervous, and podcasts actually make you calmer, make you relaxed. So those rooms are very different. The decor is different. Okay. The features and functions are the same. So if I have to take the same metaphor and say, hey, there are chairs and tables and sofas and all of that in every room, but they just look different, and that makes a huge amount of difference. Now here's the final part of this wonderful mansion, and that's a new room that has been built, and that's called Clubhouse. Now what does Clubhouse do? Clubhouse is a very interesting room, because in Clubhouse no one can see each other. It's like playing blind man's bluff, right? So people can hear each other talk, and sometimes it's Mark Zuckerberg's voice, and sometimes it is Elon Musk's voice, and sometimes it is somebody else's voice, and all of these guys are, luminaries, and you feel like, wow, I'm in the same room as Elon Musk, man, this is so cool. And you know why that happens? Because you can hear voice, and it's not like Twitter. On Twitter, you don't get the same feeling. But on Clubhouse, you get that feeling. Because why? Because limbic system, right? Remember where the auditory centers are, not the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is where Twitter resides, and limbic system is where the Clubhouse situation is. Clubhouse is really interesting because what it's done is that it's Apple only and invite only sort of situation right now. In fact, I do a video series called The Traveling Professor Investigates, and I've just put up my take on Clubhouse. So if you follow The Traveling Professor on Instagram, you will understand what I think of Clubhouse in a little detail. It's a funny take on it. But essentially, Clubhouse is a very interesting phenomenon because it is the first social medium which is going beyond text and typical photos and or video and all of that. It is audio only, and it is going to probably be even more addictive than every other medium. Maybe 10% more addictive, but it is going to be more addictive. It is an interesting experience indeed. Well, so I have taken you through this whole tour of this entire mansion. I hope you like the tour. I hope you like the tour guide. Essentially, it is your digital self that I'm introducing to you. So the only question that comes to mind is, then who are you? Who's the real you, right? If you are different in every room that you go to, that means that either there is no such thing as a real you, or there is a real you which is getting more and more and more hidden because of social media, right? And because of the whole digital thing, because I also spoke of Netflix, and I can talk of email or whatever it is, but digital. So what is really happening is that I think philosophically, we need to understand who we are, and are we the same person? Okay. Is there a part of us which is the same person? Or is this completely lost in the room? Okay. It's completely lost in the room or not. But from a marketing perspective, it becomes a very important thing for us to understand. Because I do know that the Kaustubh who's there in Clubhouse and the Kaustubh who'll be there in Pinterest, or the Ranjit who's there on Facebook and the Ranjit who'll be there on LinkedIn are different people. So I have to talk to their behaviors on social media, which means that I have to talk to the tribe that they belong to. I have to talk to them and that part of the brain that is being activated. And I have to also talk to the choices that they can make on that social media and track their behavior. Now, if I put Amazon in the mix and other e-commerce things in the mix, then we understand that this becomes a truly behavior-driven game. In Amazon, for example, and that's the last example I'll give, and then I'll shut up. What we found out in one of the studies that we did was, uh, women beyond the age of 30 and below 45 were going to Amazon after putting their kids to sleep at 9 o'clock at night and shopping. So we just did not understand what was happening. Right? I was closely associated with this research. Funny enough, the finding was that people were taking it to the shopping cart, but then not actually going through with the purchase. So what was happening to the poor, tired housewife was that she was using Amazon's shopping experience as a retail therapy. Now imagine how us understanding the same behavior from a different lens as a marketer can make us understand the consumer way better. So for all of you future marketers and for all of you future students of social media and the rest of it, know which room you're in and know which room your customer is in. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and patience. I hope you liked what you heard. So I'm open to questions now. Happy to answer any questions, any thoughts, any comments, any thoughts.
Thank you so much, sir. I guess, guys, you can put in your questions in the chat box or the Q&A, so we could quickly take them over as well and accordingly.
Sure. I hope you had fun. Okay. I think there's deathly silence. Can we let people speak if they want to, or it's too many people?
We can, in case if someone wants to, probably you can raise your hand and I can allow you to speak and ask the question. I see we have a couple of questions on the Q&A box.
Okay, Kaustubh was asking, what are your thoughts on the social dilemma? How true, exaggerated do you think that story is? Kaustubh, that's a very good question. I don't think the social dilemma, I didn't like the social dilemma. Okay. I actually thought that it was a little exaggerated. And I think that you can't create a behavior that is not already intrinsically there as. So essentially, Kaustubh, I hope you can hear me. This is the essential thing. Social dilemma says that, ooh, these networks are creating, they're evil and they're creating. Sure, they're creating the user experience, but they are not going to create it at their own expense. And they cannot create something that is not already there as a neural network in your brain. Thank you, Ranjit, for that compliment. I'm sure that you will give me galis later on, but thank you so much for the compliment.
So we also have a couple of questions on the Q&A box, if you could read them as well.
Sir, what about Zoom as a room? Okay, I started off with Aditya. I think you came to this mansion late. I started off with Zoom as a room. Zoom is a terrible room. Zoom is a room wherein everybody is reluctantly participating. So it is that study room in the mansion, that you're going and you're like, oh no, I have to study again with my dad. That is the kind of room Zoom is. Okay, Dinesh is saying, useful and interesting, but can you talk about whether one should be on social media at all and how should it be handled? I think it is a personal choice whether you want to be on social media and the rest of it. The way in which I handle it is I keep off completely. So I keep my phone away from myself and it becomes a discipline. So when I'm working out, I don't do any social media. When I'm teaching, clearly no social media. When I'm actually speaking with the family, no social media. And it's a personal choice. I know that it's damn difficult to do, but that's the way in which I would go, Dinesh. Very good question. Is there a way, Dhwani is saying, to see the algorithms in a positive light from a consumer perspective? I think, Dhwani, the best positive way in which you can see it from a consumer perspective is to understand that these algorithms are delivering the user experience that you yourself are demanding from them. Right? Because unless and until you are communicating, hey, Dhwani likes this guy's content and that girl's content, and this is the kind of stuff she's reading, so I'm going to provide more and more of that stuff to her, well, I'm getting more and more of what I want. Now, whether that what you want is good for you or not is a separate story, but this is the best way in which you can look at it in a positive perspective. Rohit is saying, what do you think of the developments on the controlling OTT platforms? I think technology is always 5 steps ahead of any legislation. So by the time the government comes to control OTT platforms, we'll have something new, Rohit. So I'm not particularly worried about that. There'll be a period of turbulence, but then we'll run again. Chinmay is saying, just wanted to know what you think about Simon Sinek's talk on the millennial generation, where he addresses the problem of social media becoming an addiction for millennials and Gen Zers. Okay. Chinmay, I think Simon Sinek is, I'm not convinced about Simon Sinek. I thought he started off well, okay? But what I've begun to understand is that he is continuously focusing on a particular strain of thought. Now, I love the start with why and all of that that Simon Sinek is on about. But when he says it's not their fault, okay, and the millennials have got it bad and all of that, I feel that he is missing the point. I think the way in which we are moving, even if you look, Chinmay, if you look at sports, we are moving from actually the Colosseum and actual battles which masqueraded as sports to some real hardcore sports on the field, to actual gaming and to stuff like that. So we are all going the technology way. It seems to be inevitable. If I look at the march of evolution and the timeline of the way in which mankind is going digital and what Elon Musk is saying, it is quite, we cannot understand it as the problem of social media. We have to be very aware of the addiction, okay? But we can't look at it as a problem. Kapil is saying, which room the fingers on app move faster? Is the least liked room, is that the least liked room for the marketer? Kapil, very good question again. The room that in which fingers on the app move fastest is the room which has the maximum number of Gen Zers and millennials, because I can't type as fast as you, man. You guys are the fastest. Okay. Now, all right. So is social media, various rooms, which are the flavor of the day, kind of priming society's brains in a particular way? I think that's what Ranjit is asking. Absolutely. And the priming is happening because of the user experience and the evolving algorithm, Ranjit. Absolutely. Because if you look at it, the features and functions are very similar, right? Here's a very, very good example. Kaustav, I'll come to you, but just listen to this example. On WhatsApp, not till recently when the people are getting off WhatsApp and going on to Signal, but on WhatsApp, I used to feel much safer than talking on Facebook Messenger. The quality of conversation was very different on WhatsApp. Even if I'm talking to Ranjit on WhatsApp and I'm talking to Ranjit on Facebook, it's a different interaction. So why does that happen? It happens because our expectations become like, I'm meeting Ranjit at the party and I'm meeting Ranjit in person. Because WhatsApp's basic stuff is the phone identity. So there's a deep trust involved in that phone. When I meet Ranjit in a party, even I have to put on my mask, even Ranjit has to put on his mask. So yes, even though the features and functions of the messenger are the same, the platform in which you're meeting me and I'm meeting you is going to determine the quality of our interaction. I hope that helps. Kaustav, I have not really tried Discord, so I don't want to comment on anything that I've not tried. If you want to try Discord as a room, I don't think it'll be a room, man. It'll be having a lot of Discord. There'll be a lot of fights. That's the fight room. Okay. Any other questions? Or people want to go out Saturday night? I hope you guys go out, man. Don't be on digital. Don't see Netflix. Go out. Have fun. Yes, there seems to be a question, I think. Okay, Aditya is saying, what is the future of digital marketing as companies like WhatsApp and Signal are being forced to cut down targeted advertising and Apple has taken steps against it? Aditya, I think digital marketing will have to evolve and move towards creating media product. Now, what do I mean by media product? I mean going beyond the typical marketing pushy ways of advertising and stuff like that, and actually starting to create content which consumers are liking. Nike is a master in it, because Nike, for example, is doing something on with the running community, right? So what it's doing is that it says that, hey, you can wear a pair of Adidas onto this whatever, but it's still fine. You know, you can do this. And I think that marketing will evolve around those lines. Yeah, I don't think advertising, the way in which we are seeing it right now is going to have a very easy time ahead. Dinesh is saying, any thoughts on Deep Work by Cal Newport in the context of social media? I love Cal Newport and I love deep work, the concept of deep work, and I practice deep work. And if you practice deep work, I'm not going to get too deep into it. I think that you actually require lesser amount of time for working. So I actually practice my work and then play. So if I'm on social media, then that's my break time between bouts of deep work. So I don't agree with Cal Newport when he says go off social media, but I like his concept of deep work. I hope I answered that question, Dinesh. Okay. What do you, is there any?
No, so I think Dinesh just wanted to thank you there. So I also had one question.
Okay.
When we are looking at social media as a platform, obviously a lot of these algorithms, at least what the companies publicize, is that it is trying to help smaller organizations which really can't push in a lot of money into advertising to sort of reach their customers as well. So understanding of this algorithm or understanding of how these rooms function in a very simple way that you put it across, do you think this is going to hamper all of the small size businesses going in the future as well?
I think the biggest lesson that the pandemic gave, we all expected small and medium enterprises to shut down or to really suffer badly in the starting of the lockdown of the pandemic. What we found out was that they are the ones who took to digital very quickly and very innovatively, and they actually started succeeding with digital. So I think that that's an amazing way in which people's ingenuity comes out to the fore, and it's worked really well.
Okay, that's great. And I think we have we sort of closed with all the questions. As if any other questions, please, we can take it maybe another minute or so. If you want to put in anything, you can put it on the chat box or the Q&A. I think so. By far, this is, I guess someone else also mentioned, this has been by far the easiest to understand sessions that I've had in a long time. And I think I've also been in this phase in the last 1 week that I'm reading quite a few other books as well with very complex topics being dealt with very easily. So I think this is the week for me that way. But thank you so much.
Okay.
It's been a great session, and I'm sure everyone in the audience has gained as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm the traveling professor. You can follow me on LinkedIn and on Instagram. I do make videos and podcasts, so do listen to them. Connect with me.
Definitely.
If you have questions, I'll actually make a podcast and give a shout out to you. All right?
Definitely. Thank you so much, sir.
Right.
Thank you so much. And guys, we have the next up session. Let me quickly see if I can show you across what our next session is on about. Okay. All right. Next up, we've been speaking about consumer perspectives, marketing to consumers. How do I catch my consumers' attention? And likewise, the next session that we're going to have under the Masterclass series is on business to business marketing. This is one area that's always come into picture only once you enter a B school. We start to get to know that there is this side of marketing as well. And to deal with the same thing, we'll have Professor Gitesh Chavan. I look forward to seeing all of you at the session. This will be on the Friday, 5th of March at 6 o'clock. As usual, you will get your emailers, you will get notifications. And for the session recording for today, please refer to our YouTube link. For the Flame University YouTube link, you should have the session recording by tomorrow up on the same thing. Thank you so much, Professor Deshmukh. It's been lovely catching up with you. And I think it's been a very, very refreshing session for everyone. I think for one, Zoom room was really, really interesting. It's not been something that was dreaded for sure. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.